All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, earlier today, Rampage Jackson released a podcast with the one and only Alistair Overeem, okay? For those of you that don't know, if you're a newer fan, Alistair Overeem, towards the end of his UFC career, if that is the impression that you got from him, I highly suggest you go back and watch some of his older fights from K1, from Pride. He fought pretty much everywhere. He was an absolute savage, which makes what he says on this podcast all the more crazy, okay? Because Alistair Overeem made, in my opinion, a very shocking admission. And honestly, I got kind of mixed feelings about it because I was like, damn, dude, it's pretty cool of you to talk about this, because I feel like there's a lot of people that would be unbelievably embarrassed and wouldn't want to say a damn word about it. And also, you're spreading awareness to this issue, and that is that his daughter thinks she is his son, okay? And he says it exactly like that. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to go through that segment. I hope that I do not get a copyright strike, so I will speed it up just to 1.25 speed, because I do think it's important that we hear what he says clearly, okay? But as I said, this is a crazy admission from Alistair Overeem, and honestly, there are some things that I might take issue with, the way in which he handles the situation, but this is an unbelievably hard situation to be put through as a parent, okay? But the point is that if somebody like Alistair Overeem, right, this is why I opened up with how much of a savage he is, right? If somebody like Alistair Overeem, unbelievably masculine man, think whatever you want about him, if he's weird or whatever, dude stood beside Brock Lesnar, was the only guy that did not get dwarfed, right? He was on all of the good stuff, okay? And he was terrifying when he was. But if this man's family, if this man's daughter can be infected by what we call wokeism, then nobody's safe, okay? Straight up, nobody is safe. And that's just, it's kind of scary to think about, because if there was somebody who you would least expect, it would be somebody like an Alistair Overeem to be going through something like this. This is why when Sean Strickland called Alexander K. Lee an infection, right, and so many people were distraught and had their feelings hurt by it, I truly believe it's because they know how true that is, right? That is a fact. People like him, ideology like the one he was pushing, is an infection, and clearly it can spread pretty much anywhere. So we're going to go ahead and hit play here, and we'll go from there.
I have 3 girls.
I got 3 girls.
Now, just for context, sorry, I paused it immediately. I apologize for that. They were talking about relationships and things like that. Alistair Overeem asked Rampage Jackson if he had any kids. Rampage Jackson followed up with the same question. Alistair Overeem says he has 3 girls. We'll go on from there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Girl
The
dad.
problem with the oldest, though, she thinks that he's my son.
Okay, now he's a little bit... I am actually going to back it up, and we are going to listen to it 1 speed, so I really hope I do not get copyright strike. He's a little bit hard to understand with his accent, so just listen carefully, please.
I have 3 girls.
I got 3 girls.
Three
Oh, wow.
girls. Yeah.
Girl
The
dad.
problem with the oldest, though, she thinks that he's my son.
The problem with my oldest is she thinks to be my son. Okay, now when he first said this, I thought he was partially joking in the sense that maybe she's just a bit of a tomboy. She maybe likes to do more masculine activities. Maybe she wants to train in kickboxing, take after her dad and things like that. But then I forgot that the society we live in today does not allow for tomboys. And if you are a girl that is kind of exuding that energy, there will be a whole bunch of people online and otherwise convincing you that no, you're not a girl who likes more masculine activities, you're trans. Do you know what I mean? That's what they'll do. So we'll continue, because I was actually shocked when he continued on with the subject.
she's training.
She's actually, yes. We're now going to train a little bit, but she's all into this woke nonsense.
Oh,
So Rampage thought essentially the same thing I did, right? Like, well, so she's training a little bit, puts his fists up, right? Like trying to take after daddy, being a little bit more of a tomboy. Alistair Overeem says a little bit of training, but she's all into this woke nonsense. So right there, you know what he's talking about, which is absolutely horrible, dude. And I feel for this guy. And I am honestly pretty grateful that he would speak about this, because as I said, there are a ton of fighters, I would imagine, especially because of the community that we exist in, they would just not talk about that shit ever. Do you know what I mean? There's no reason to. It's embarrassing, or at the very least it could be. People are going to start questioning your parenting abilities. It's like a whole thing, okay? But for him to bring this up on a podcast with a bunch of other fighters, knowing that there's probably going to be some judgment involved, I commend him for that. It is a hard thing to talk about, I would imagine. Thankfully, I've not had to go through that yet.
Familiar with woke?
Not yet. I'm not going through that.
Yeah. Is this coming from? If it was not sad, it would be happier. Funny, actually.
You said you said she thinks she's a man. You
She
said
thinks he's a man.
like a real man.
a
Like are we
lot of-
talking like
Yes,
ah?
because
Luke Rockhold is so disappointed, right? So everybody in this room is confused. They're like, wait, is he talking about what we think he's talking about? Luke Rockhold, unbelievably based, didn't know that he would be. He's from California. But listen, dude, a lot of these guys, once they get on a podcast, you get to see their actual personalities. They become a lot more likable, right? Luke Rockhold wasn't necessarily the best on the mic in the UFC that can achieve type stuff. But you see their personalities shine through in podcasts, and you can tell the disappointment on his face. Like, he feels for Alistair Overeem, as I'm sure we all do. Okay, now there's going to be many people that are, as I said, judging his parenting abilities. They're going to be going after him, telling him this is his fault. Now, this man has been away the vast majority of his adult life, training, fighting, providing, right? So this child has most likely spent the vast majority of the time with the mother and the new husband that Alistair Overeem goes on to talk about.
That's wokeness.
Okay, so why? Addicted to her phone. She's being brainwashed basically 6, 7, 8 hours a day. How you feel you are, that you can be what you want to be.
Where is she based?
So Alistair Overeem thinks that the problem is the cell phone. His daughter spending 6 to 8 hours a day on that thing, being brainwashed. You think you can be whatever you want to be. Also, you do get literally almost infinite validation. No matter what type of community you choose to be in, they are available to you on the internet. And if you don't want pushback, you will go to those communities and you will get validation. And also, there's this weird thing that goes on. I feel as though this ailment that takes a hold of some people, some young impressionable people, okay, I feel like it is a way for people that are not necessarily good at a thing to feel special or to have something special about them with literally like little to no effort whatsoever. And the phone, as I said, that it is a problem. Alistair Overeem is not wrong there, right? But also, listen, dude, monitor that shit then. However, he goes on to explain her age, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult doing that. Maybe he's going to take note of this and make sure it doesn't happen with his youngest daughters. But I do agree with him. Phones are a problem, especially when, as I said, you are seeking validation for what you believe in and things like that.
Miami? Netherlands. What does she do?
Wait, you're talking about woke, like society?
Yeah,
no,
talking
about woke bullshit. This extremist left.
She thinks she's a he.
Alistair Overeem, absolutely based. I'm talking about extremist left bullshit, woke bullshit. That's a quote, dude. Alistair Overeem is based. And listen, as I said, dude, their personalities shine through on podcast. I would have not known this about Alistair Overeem. And it's crazy that somebody like Alistair Overeem, who clearly has disdain for the extreme left, okay? As I said, one of the most masculine fucking men on the face of the planet, absolute savage, fought in so many different fight organizations, put on crazy fights for a very long time in his career. Has this happened to him? Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe this is a rebelling thing or who knows, but you would think that somebody like Alistair Overeem would be able to instill these values and beliefs into his children, his offspring. So I don't know, the phone is obviously part of it, but I feel as though there has to be more going on. But anyways, we will continue.
That is as woke as it becomes.
This social media changed the world, bro.
That's like, but it's.
But as a father, obviously you have love no matter what. But do you sit down and say, like, what direction or how do you handle that as a father?
Well,
now it's a good question from the co-host there. Like, obviously as a father, you're still gonna love your kid. But this is what are you doing here? Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you doing about it? Which is, it is a fair question, right? It is a fair question because while you are obviously going to love your children, like almost no matter what, and I feel as though anybody that says otherwise probably just doesn't have kids, you are definitely going to disagree with shit. You are going to try and push them, or at the very least help them, guide them into the direction that you think they should be going into. And typically parents do, if you're a decent parent, know what is best for your offspring, right? So it's unfortunate that so many kids rebel from their parents, but good follow-up question from the co-host there. I forget his name. I apologize for that.
Patience, compassion.
Okay.
Learning in that department, right? But
see, I don't like that answer from Alistair. Patience, compassion, and learning in that department. You should not be learning in that department. That department is bullshit. It will always be bullshit. It is literally a class in university called a theory, right? There's no proof to this whatsoever. You should not be learning in this subject. You should be rejecting it wholesale, in my opinion. Patience and compassion is one thing, but then going and also almost affirming, right? The very thing itself is, in my opinion, an issue. Now he goes on to say some other stuff, which kind of contradicts the learning about this stuff, which I appreciated when I heard him say it.
I'm not going to call her a he. That's just not.
Okay.
I'm a fighter.
Yeah.
I will always fight. I'm not gonna go into this. I just don't believe that.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking based. And we need more people like Alistair Overeem in this world. I am not going to call her he. There are, I would say, 50% of parents that would bow down to this shit. They would do whatever their child wanted, which is a serious problem in today's society. I do not understand. When did kids become the dictators of a household? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's insane to me. Your kids are kids. They're not fully developed in their brain. You are their boss, essentially. Okay, now you're a little bit more than a boss, obviously, but you should not be taking orders from your children. And that is what so many people do nowadays. This is what school has become. This is why homeschool is a good option for so many people. But you need to, they make it seem as though you need to affirm literally every single thing when there is not a single other illness on the face of the planet that we would affirm. There's just not, dude. And so for Alistair Overeem to straight up say, which, by the way, this could very well cost him his relationship with his daughter. Like, I am not going to call her a he. I'm very pleased to hear that. And I'm glad that there are some parents that are willing to push back, especially somebody like Alistair Overeem comes from, Holland, dude. This isn't do you know what I mean? They're fairly progressive. Or at the very least up until maybe very recently. Maybe there's been a little bit of a pendulum swing recently, but great thing to hear. As I said, 50% of parents, I would wager, would do the exact opposite. At the drop of a hat. Okay, sweetie, I'll call you a boy now. Right? Let's go clothes shopping. Let's all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And then they become unhinged people that get mad at other people that disagree with them. Right? In this field. Even though, as I said, there's no proof. There's no science that actually backs this stuff up. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So as I said, I was glad to hear that from Alistair Overeem. Very commendable, in my opinion, for speaking on this matter regardless. You can judge his parenting skills if you want to. I feel like then you might be lacking some compassion because, he does go on to explain how he wasn't really there a whole lot, and maybe that's part of the reason. Didn't have the strong father figure, even though we see the Alistair Overeem that we know and love. If you are an older MMA fan, maybe the daughter didn't get enough of that, and I feel as though that's him being a good person and just a regular human trying to figure this shit out. What did I do wrong to get here? And I get it, but I don't know that it's entirely your fault, right? Because you were away providing, being the man of the household, being the father, the way that you should be. Something else was probably going on, and it is unfortunate to see somebody like Alistair Overeem go through this, but as I said, very fucking commendable of him to speak on this.
Yeah. So I can respect you, I can do everything, but I'm not going to. Yeah.
But as a father, you don't lose the love at all. You're still there no matter what to talk, to lean on.
Yeah, because I think we should not let go. If you let go, lost, right?
Of course.
Need to actually as close as possible. And maybe that was the problem in the first place because I'm in the States, I'm fighting, I'm doing my thing. She's in the Netherlands. Yeah. Here's the phone, here's the tablet. Because I remember she was 4 when I looked at her and she was too much on the tablet. And I told the mother, she's too much on the tablet. We need to do something about that. And they're probably thinking, yeah, you're over there doing your thing. So the tablet, and now this is the result.
Yeah.
Jesus, dude. Do you know what I mean? See, people do that all the... That is, I hate, I don't like to use this term that frequently, though it does get brought up in my chat, pretty often. But that is gaslighting of the highest order, right? What his baby's mother or, child's mother, whatever, because I don't think they were together at this time, did there. Like, if the father or even the mother has a concern about the behavior or something that the child is doing, it should be taken seriously. Don't just fucking poo-poo it away. Because look what happens, dude. Now, I don't know what the mother, what the stepdad, what they think about this kind of stuff, but, it's crazy to me. This is why I couldn't believe that we were less than 20 minutes into this podcast when he brought this up. Just nonchalantly, Luke Rockhold has looked unbelievably disappointed this whole time. He is probably feeling like some level of, he's distraught on behalf of Alistair Overeem, I think.
Yeah. How old is she? How old is she now?
She's 17. So depression bullshit 3 years now, since 14.
Yeah. It's society. Society has grown so soft. Technology it's weak, and just everyone's living this plush, low lifestyle, and they don't really face any real hurdles to make them realize who the fuck they are.
we'll wrap it up there. What Luke Rockhold said is absolutely true. That is something else. Now, my theory early on, I said that, you know, there's people who are not necessarily good at a thing. Maybe they're awkward in terms of like their hand-eye coordination. They're not good at sports. Maybe they're not very intelligent. Maybe they're not very good looking, right? This is a way for me to get easy validation, right? Or at least I believe that would be the thought process of some of them, because they see other people getting crazy amounts of validation. They see, you know, Dylan, whatever his name is, getting famous, making a ton of money sponsorship simply because he chose to go this route, right? Whereas, you know, other people have to be good at something in order to get that kind of recognition. But what Luke Rockhold brought up is a good point as well. Like, if you do not have any struggle, you will create it for yourself. Do you know what I mean? That's just a fact. Because the brain, it's like it almost needs it. You need some level of stress or something to overcome or something to do. Also, the depression stuff that Alistair Overeem was talking about, like, if you're not accomplishing anything, you are going to become, like, you know, just, you'll just be there, just a blob. There's nothing to be happy about. You're not accomplishing anything. You're not going to be pleased with yourself in any which way, shape, or form. But then when you go through this transition, or whatever they want to call it, right, you know, all of a sudden you can be like, oh, well, I've gone through this, I've gone through that, even though it was completely and totally self-inflicted. So I agree with Luke Rockhold. What Alistair Overeem said there at the very end, she's 17, that's a bit of an issue, right? Because in a year's time, she's going to be an adult. There's not a single thing you can do about this. And it's quite unfortunate. So I liked what he said earlier in terms of like, no, I'm not just going to, you know, because they asked, well, is the love unconditional essentially, right? And he said, yeah, of course, because if I stop, then it's gone. She's gone. Whereas I feel like it needs to be the opposite, and I need her to be as close as possible because maybe that was the issue growing up. So, you know, as I said, dude, I very much commend Alistair Overeem for talking about the situation. I believe it would be unbelievably hard, embarrassing, all the rest of it. I think that he's probably handling it, you know, as best as he possibly could, or as best as he knows how. Tricky situation. You know, he made good points. Luke Rockhold made good points. Rampage Jackson goes on to make some points as well. And damn, dude, it's just crazy to me to think that, as I said, you know, multiple times throughout this video already, but somebody as masculine and savage, you know, as Alistair Overeem, with one of the most like hyper masculine, testosterone filled careers all throughout his career. As a child, you have the most like testosterone filled masculine person to look up to, playing with you, doing things with you, you know, even if it wasn't all the time because he's away working, which he should be. He's the dad, you know. He's not safe from it. Dude, no one is, right? This shit needs to fucking go. It just does. It needs to go. Point blank, period. That's it, dude. You know, thoughts are with Alistair Overeem, honestly. That's like almost worse than I don't know. Anyways, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.